look at the economic growth over the last decade and where that economic growth was centred around, we need to look at a completely different way of how Ireland positions itself, both in a European perspective but also in a global perspective. What is it we're going to be offering as a country or a nation? And if you look at all our export-driven services, we need to be in a different place than we currently are if we're going to grow. I think our boom around our property developers and how money was generated within the economy for the national exchequer, that's all going to change now. And we're going to have a different type of strategy for the next 10 or 15 years if we're going to grow the economy. The take-up of using digital infrastructure and technology to gain efficiencies, initially central government hasn't taken it up with the level to which we think they should have taken it up. I think we were a little bit behind application-wise. I think if central government were to embrace it properly, we would have a civil service that would be able to push this through as a plan for the rest of the country. And I don't think that's there at the moment. I think it's there in certain pockets. I think there are some departments that are excellent. I think they've got really good ideas and thoughts around how they deliver. I think by default, given the last 18 months, the central government have taken control of an awful lot of the technology and IT-based projects that would have been delivered maybe in a more sporadic way through the different departments, which in one sense is a good thing, because I do think now there is a one entity that is actually looking at what's being delivered from a technology perspective throughout central government. If central government, or when they embrace technology completely as an overall unit, I think it'll be much easier for that then to be deployed out through the system with regards to education, universities, even out to the homes, because there'll be much better understanding around what technology can actually bring to the nation as a whole. I think the principle of having a CIO or an Ireland CTO is a good one, because I think there should be somebody that's got ownership for delivering a strategy rather than just being under the umbrella of one of the departments, because it's probably too important and too much to cover under those different areas. If they are going to do it, which I think is a good idea, I do think it needs to be split out under different headings. So you could have your infrastructure, you could have your use of the internet, you could have your education, you could have your investment in content and digital media, that drives into the whole area, but it does need to be, it's a very, very wide area, and it does need to be looked at a lot more closely, I would say, than just it being under the brief of maybe the Department of Finance or wherever it falls at the moment. I do think not by design, but at the moment we probably have somebody acting in that role, but it isn't their main function. But they are trying to deliver a more centralised view as to how central government use IT and applications, and probably get the efficiencies out of doing that as well, which probably aren't there at the moment. I do think it probably needs to be a civil servant, a senior civil servant who's got a very good understanding of technology, or you bring in an outside person to take over that function or role. Having a ministerial ship for the area or department makes sense, because it might give it more clout. But as regards actually the delivery, I think it would be, it's got to be within a government section, civil service, that's going to be there all the time, and not just ministerial driven. A simple answer, yes, of course we do. And this has been discussed at many times at different levels, from telcos right up to the highest levels in government with regards to broadband strategy and broadband rollout, and what is broadband and who has it and who hasn't got it. From where we sit, we see an awful lot of activity in the telecom sector in Ireland, and the data centres that we have are highly connected from a telecoms perspective. So we'd see all the various players that enter the market. We see the activity that they are distributing between themselves. So there's a lot of vibrancy going on between the various telcos. If you look at national infrastructure, we're still looking at Eircom having a huge stranglehold on what's out there in the marketplace. We look at the other providers that have started to deliver national capabilities. Obviously, eNet have got a good sort of market share at the moment, albeit as a wholesaler to the telco market. But they've got this new 90 towns they can do now on the metropolitan area networks. That's going to deliver more capability nationwide. You've got ESB Telecoms who are going to be able to link up a lot of that infrastructure. You've got backhaul is still a bit of an issue. It's not as bad as it was. I think that the prices have come down considerably from what they were a number of years ago. And then within the towns themselves, you're still looking at sort of last leg issues around, how do you get into the last leg? Do you civil build in, or are you using mobile technology or wireless or Wi-Fi or next generation networks, whatever you're using? So, I think I've said this before, there's a lot of the infrastructure is there. There's bits and pieces of it there. Unfortunately, we haven't been able to join it all up just to say here is a national infrastructure that can deliver real, genuine broadband quality of service down to the business, home, school, university, whatever it is.